Hey YouTube, I'm out here working on the 57. I spent a little bit of time with it this weekend. My son Trey was driving it around a little bit. Oh, the biggest reason that we were able to drive it around a little bit is we got some license plates and some insurance. So we took it out for a little drive yesterday. I let my son drive it. He didn't like the little tiny steering wheel that was in it, so I had this one laying around. I'd like to get maybe a little bit different style. I like the style of the one that was in it better, but it was just a little smaller and kind of beat up. So I'm going to try to find another one, old school wheel like that. But for now, we put that one back in there. And then I've been playing with the EFI, messing with some settings, trying to get it run a little better. And I'm making some progress. It's running a lot better, but all of a sudden I was having trouble getting it started. I could drive it and then I shut it off and then it wouldn't start. And I'd messed with a few things and I realized finally that it wasn't starting because I wasn't having enough voltage. So I had to throw the battery charger on there. So I thought the battery was weak, but it turns out the old alternator, she's not making juice. So we have to change the alternator. So I have another alternator laying here that was supposed to be from a 55, but we will take that off and put it on here. And see, that should solve our hard starting issues. And then also I was having kind of like a low RPM, you know, bog or mist that I couldn't get tuned out with the EFI. And I'm hoping maybe, and I don't know at all, I guess, but I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that maybe that was partially because we weren't having enough voltage. I do know that the EFI, the FiTech thing, is pretty finicky, and it's got to have, you know, 12 volts or more, or whatever it is. It's got to have enough voltage, or like I said, it won't start and it starts creating some issues. So let's get to work doing that. All right, alternator update. We got the other alternator put on. I did just kind of put some new wire ends and some heat shrink on a couple of the wires. And then the other thing I did is I changed this bracket, and not because this one's chrome and shiny, but the one, here's the one that was on there. Kind of a homemade jobber, and that's fine, it worked, but means this is straight right here. It actually, if you look at this one, you know, this whole thing is curved, and so the straight part was actually hitting against the alternator and making it hard to, you know, adjust it and get it tight enough. Now this one gets tight enough, but it's right at the very end of the adjustment. And then also, look at it this way, if I can get, I don't know if I can get my camera down there low enough. This, that arm isn't super straight. It would almost probably should have like a longer bolt and a couple spacers or washers or something down there to bring the bottom of it out. But the fan belt is still mostly straight. I mean, the other bracket down here at the bottom stayed where it was, so it should be pretty much lined up where it was. So we'll see if she stays on there. I mean, it almost looks, especially on the camera, that it's a little back. But we'll get her fired up and give her some old RPMs and make sure the old belt stays on there. But that's that. I actually have started already, and it does look like it's charging. So one problem solved. Well, wouldn't you know, it's another day out here in the Montana garage, and the only thing I've been doing a good job of today is not filming anything for some reason. Anyways, I came out, I don't know if you guys saw my Instagram post. I don't think I had anything on any other videos yet, but this thing is leaking transmission fluid pretty badly. This is just a little puddle from, I parked about 20 minutes ago maybe, but last time I drove it, I came back out a couple hours later, and you can kind of see the big scar on the concrete pad from, looked like a murder scene with that red transmission fluid. I just actually saw a physical, or an actual drip right there. Anyways, so my theory today was just come out and put some more fluid in it, drive it, get it warmed up, and try to figure out where it was leaking from. But that turned into quite a circus. The old FiTech was giving me some issues again today. And part of it is because I'm not that smart, and part of it is just, I don't know, just, you know, tracking all this stuff down or whatnot. But I got it started. It ran just fine. I got it warmed up. And then I realized before I got it too hot, I wanted to change the rotor, because the other day I put new plugs, not new wires, but new plugs, a new cap, and new rotor on it. The cap looked kind of nasty. The rotor had some black marks on it too, you know, like on the little contact. I kind of hit them with some emery cloth or something, because they gave me the wrong one when I went to buy a new one, so I had put the old one back in. So the other day I went and replaced that, got the right one, and I thought, well, before it gets too hot, I'm gonna throw that new rotor in there. So I shut it off, put the rotor in, and then of course, wouldn't you know, after I did that, it wouldn't start. It went back to the old fire, but not start for a couple times, and then it was just cranky, 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 and no fire. So I figured I had some loose wires or something from messing with the, the distributor cap and all that stuff. I looked at the wires, everything looked fine. I pulled the plug, sat it on the valve cover, cranked the engine over, and I had spark. So it's like, well, I must not have screwed up the rotor because I got spark still. And so then I messed with it longer and nothing. Then I realized when you turn the key on this FiTech, sounds like we got a hot rod square body pulling in the driveway. You guys can't see it because the glare. Oh, there it is. Trey's getting home from his fishing trip. Anyways, back to my story. Wherever I was. The FiTech, when you turn the key on, it actually squirts a little bit of gas in there to help it start. Like you get a little squirt, and then it's supposed to fire it up. I noticed it didn't seem like it was doing that. So I dumped some gas down the old throat there, and boom, she fired right up. So I had spark, and when I added gas manually, it started right up. So I figured there's something going on with the FiTech. So I started working on trying to figure out what was going on with the FiTech. I made sure I had 12 volts to a white wire. There's also a, so when it comes off FiTech over there, it's white, and then there's a blue wire. The blue wire goes to the, I believe it's the negative of the coil. I noticed on the little readout, the little FiTech screen, when I was cranking it, I wasn't getting an RPM signal. Like it was, well, at first I noticed it was saying 0, and then it got kind of weird. It would go blank, and then it would say like 58,000, and then it would blank. So I thought something's really screwed up here because I'm not getting any, like it's not staying consistent. The little dashboard screen usually has all the information, and then it would just go blank. Like it was totally losing power. The light would stay on like on the screen, so everything wasn't losing power, but like all the digits, the numbers would go away. So I tried jumping a constant 12 from the alternator here to where I have the white wire hooked up, and same thing, no RPM signal. The screen was still being kind of messed up or screwy or whatnot. And I took the coil wire, or the blue wire from the FiTech off the coil, and I jumped it to 12 volts. Still no start, still no RPM signal. So then I decided that even though I had spark the last time I checked, I would take the cap and rotor back off just to check the wires, make sure I didn't pull the little wire loose off the points. I mean, I showed spark before, but it didn't look like super strong spark, and I thought, well, maybe it was just barely hanging on at this point. I didn't have any spark, means I wasn't showing that RPM signal. So I took the cap and rotor back off. I noticed there's a little wire. I'll show you on my spare distributor and small block setup. If I can see, this is my 55 engine. So there's this little wire right there. Should have brought my light. But it comes up out of the distributor, and it's just hooked to the casing. It's like a ground. So on the 57 here, that wire was loose right there. I could wiggle it quite a bit. So I decided, well, I'll tighten that up. To do that, I had to take the points back out to get access to that screw. So I took the points. I didn't like unhook them, and I just had to take the screws and move them out of the way. The wire stayed hooked up. And then I put the points back in. I put the old rotor back on just for, what the hell, it started with the old rotor. And then I put it all back together, and then still nothing. Cranky, cranky, cranky. No numbers on the FiTech screen. And I hemmed and hawed a little bit, and I was doing some more research, trying to figure out why I wouldn't be getting power. I tried jumping the 12 volts to the white wire, 12 volts to the blue wire on the FiTech, still no RPM, still no fire. And then I realized that, when I took those points out of there, I could have, even though I didn't adjust the little screw that adjusts the points, if you don't get the points back exactly the same, it's pretty minor, adjustments in there that, maybe the points need adjusted. So tried to hook the dwell meter up, and it wasn't showing nothing. on cranking. I, pulled the little window up and I turned it like a turn to the right or half a turn to the right, and then it fired. And then my screen was working right and everything. So for some reason, I don't know, I don't think you're really even supposed to use this FiTech with a points ignition, or, obviously you can't control the ignition and everything, or I don't think you can like you can with a more modern electronic type ignition. But somewhere I read to not even use a points ignition. Obviously it works because it's working here, but those points, I don't know what happened first, because it worked before I took the points out and then it quit working. But then I took the points out, and when I put the points back in, they must have just got in 2 hairs of a different spot, and then I had to adjust the points. And when the points were misadjusted, that's when I wasn't showing any, numbers on the screen. I adjusted the points, got it toward fire, got the dwell meter out, dialed that in, and now it works fine again. So I don't really understand how this big circle happened, because it was fine. I didn't mess with the points, and then I wouldn't start. And then while messing with it, I messed with the points, which made it worse because then I didn't have spark. But then I fixed the points to get spark, and then the FiTech worked again. Hopefully, maybe somebody out there is a lot smarter than me and can tell me what I did wrong there. But anyways, I got it to where now when I reach in here, I better make sure I don't have anything. I don't think I've messed with anything. No tools laying around. I reach in here and I turn the old key. Look at that, it starts right up. So then I went back to diagnosing the transmission leak. Let's crawl under here and see if I can show you what I think is happening with the old transmission leak. So there we go, puddle's growing a little bit. It's been, I don't know, 15 minutes since I showed the puddle, maybe not quite that long. Anyhow, I don't know if we're gonna be able to see under here very well. But I got my handy dandy little light that I keep talking about. So we're probably upside down and backwards. I need to put my light in a different spot because that's right where my camera needs to go. So you see transmission fluid on the edge of the pan. I should have brought, again, something to point with in my light. There we go. Okay, so the dipstick tube is right there, and you can see the ring or the lip where it should, I believe, be pressed down to. The best I can tell, that's where my leak is coming from. Again, it's hard to film under here, but if I take my finger and wipe along that, gets transmission fluid on it, and then I can even kind of dry it off and sit here, and if I have the light right, I can kind of actually look and see the transmission fluid kind of building up around the edge. You see that? I think, yeah, some just dripped around that edge. So that's where it's coming from. I think there's some sort of O-ring or something in there. I tried to get my pliers on there and then, push the tube down into the transmission more, and I can't get it to budge. So I don't know, I gotta do a little research. I think probably what I'm gonna try to do, what I'm gonna have to do is actually, I hope I can obviously do this without removing the transmission, but I'm gonna try to pull the dipstick tube out. And like I said, I think there's a little seal in there somehow. Anyways, we'll pull it out and investigate and see if we can, get rid of this little or large leak eventually. Sunday, back out in the Montana garage. Started the day by taking the bumper off of this thing here. Doesn't seem like it'd be a big deal, but Trey's headed out to go bear hunting. This is the bumper that was on it, and as you can see, we'll say it's slightly tweaked, but we got this truck. Trey got this truck from my dad. He's a welder by trade and jack of all trades and make what you need kind of guy. So he made this receiver hitch to put on there, who knows, 20 years ago probably. And to get the bumper off, it was all welded to this thing, which was of course welded to the bottom of the truck. So my dad was coming through town, and I don't have a cutting torch or a plasma cutter, so I said, hey, or Trey asked him if he'd throw his cutting torch in, so he was here this morning. We buzzed that off there, and then I should have got some video of it, but I didn't. And then we took the old DD Speed Shop 57 Chevy. I threw some transmission fluid in it because that's what I'm getting ready to fix right now, is that leak. Or I'm hoping to fix it, but I threw some tranny fluid in there, and then my dad got to take it for a little cruise, took us to breakfast, cruised around town a little bit. Trey drove it a little bit, and now I'm trying to let it cool off and try to replace, hopefully, just this little seal in the dipstick, where the dipstick tube fits into the Turbo 350 transmission. I tried yesterday to push the tube down in there further. I couldn't get it to move, so today I'm going to try to get it to go out of the transmission, and we'll see if that works any better. So we'll see what happens. Transmission update. All right, so I was able to get just a channel lock on the dipstick tube, and as you can see, I pulled her out a little bit, and I was gonna drain the pan, but I figured, you know, it'll just drain what needs to drain. It'll drain out of this hole when I pull it out of there. So I can see the rubber seal. There is a rubber on the dipstick tube. Maybe the other side is shot, or maybe it just wasn't down in there far enough. Anyways, I'll let this drain, try to get that out of there the rest of the way, and then get everything dried up real good and see if I can get her jammed back in there. With a new seal on it, of course. So we got the tube out of there. The seal actually looks, or the O-ring looks fine. I have some more that I just picked up at a hardware store, so I'll probably replace those. I've also heard you can put a little Teflon tape around up here, and so maybe I'll try that too. But I think the biggest issue was, see how she's a little smashed there. It was actually, I couldn't get it out by pulling it up. I had to take it out the bottom of the car, and then there's a vacuum line from that goes down to the transmission. Between the vacuum line and this and the firewall, it was all kind of sandwiched together. So I imagine when the engine torqued a little bit, it was wiggling it. And then, like I say, maybe that's why I couldn't get it pushed in there all the way. Once I got the vacuum line unjammed out of it, then it had a little more free play. So hopefully, just between a new seal and then getting that vacuum line out of the way, I will be able to stick the tube down in the transmission further, and it'll actually seal. And then if it still leaks, I guess, like I said, I can try a little bit of that Teflon tape around there above the seal as well. I gotta let it finish draining, get her kind of cleaned up, and we'll try to put her back together. So I got this tip from some internet search. I don't remember what forum it was, but somebody was researching this leaky dipstick tube problem, as was I. This is the O-ring I took out of there, and instead of going to, like, you know, Napa or O'Reilly's and looking up this part number, I just went to Ace Hardware, and this guy had an O-ring listed the size I needed, and it's looks like it's basically the same size, but it's just like a little more, I don't know, in his post he said they're a little more robust. So, and I agree, it's like a little fatter. So he said, whoever this guy was, that he had better luck with these Ace Hardware. I don't know the brand of O-ring that they have there, but he said he had better luck with these sealings, so that's what I tried, and I can see, I agree, they do look, it does look a little more robust, we'll call it like he did. So let's find out if it works. Dick stip tube. Really? Dick stick. Say dipstick tube 3 times fast, or even just once, I guess. I can't even say it once. So dipstick tube update. Nothing can be easy, right? So the reason I couldn't get to push in all the way before, I'm now realizing, is because of the, obviously this transmission didn't come in a 57 Chevy, and somebody made this work. But this bend, I can't operate the camera and point like that, or you'll never see. This bend right here, when the dipstick tube, I got it that time, goes down into the transmission, this bend right here is hitting the back of the bell housing. So it won't allow it to go down all the way. And you can kind of see kind of that oil on it right there. That's just from where it was just banging on it. So I have to straighten this section right here out a little bit. I also had to bend this section, let's see, I think out away from the firewall. Because it was hitting the firewall. So I already did that. I may have to trade that a little more. You can see it's all flattened and squished. And anyways, I got to come up with a way to try to bend this guy a little bit, and we'll see what happens. All right, no proper tube bending tools at the Montana garage, so I just stuck her in the old vise like this and gave her the old wahoo until I figured that's a little bit, put a little crimp mark in it, but hey, I don't really care. I think I moved it a hair, so let's crawl back under the car and see if we can make it work. Well, of course it can't be just as easy as, you know, bend the dipstick tube and then put it in there. I mean, that's really all it is, but when I bend it in one spot, then it hits in another spot, and then I bend it again, and I can get it to where it fits through all that stuff, but then the angle's wrong for it to go into the transmission, so I gotta bend it again down there, and then it hits the bell housing, then I fix that, and then it hits the firewall. So I've only bent it about 30,000 times so far, and so far I can't even get it back to as good as it was when I started. So I had to take a little break to go pick up my daughter from the airport, and I guess I'm gonna crawl back under there and lay in some more transmission fluid and see if I can get her. If not, I may have to go to one of them flexible transmission dipsticks, which is probably the way to go, but I'm gonna fight with it a little longer. I got the thing, I got it jammed in there right now, but I got it so bent and kinked that the freaking, I can barely get the damn dipstick through there now, but I'm gonna keep on fighting with it, I guess. Finally done fighting with the dipstick. It's not because I got it to work, it's because I pretty much destroyed it. Like I said, it's so tight back there. One bend would lead to another, so I got it all kinked up, and I don't know, basically garbage. I'm gonna get one of them flexible dipstick hoses that's like a braided line. I think it's just so tight back there, and I don't think I was ever gonna get it seated good enough to not leak. So that's the plan. So I guess she sits for a few more days. I will, in the meantime, get back to work on the 55. Hopefully, I've been just trying to get this thing where I could drive it around a little bit, and we're getting pretty close. So, but now I'll have to place an order with Summit or somewhere else. Nobody around here will have one of those on the shelf, I'm pretty sure. So that's the story. Probably a good place to end a video and go do something else for a while because I'm kind of frustrated. But we'll get back out in the shop soon. And I still got to spray some primer. I've been saying that for like 4 months now. Stay tuned, we'll do it soon.